Welcome back to another episode of How's the Market. And this week, a really interesting one for inner Melbourne, talking about heritage versus new. What do buyers really want in the inner east? Now, I think this is a pretty centralized topic to what we deal with from the owner-occupier front, looking in inner Melbourne and Boroondara and Stonington and all these areas. And I mean, I think from my experience, the amount of clients that I speak to, I don't really get a lot of people coming to me saying that they really want a new modern home. It's just less rare. There's certainly buyers out there in the market. But I find it really interesting because we're not building any more of them, the period homes, and we're building a lot more of the modern homes, but yet still out there. Like, what have you sort of seen? Like, what's the experience overall?
Yeah, it's interesting, like the buyer on like that's looking for the inner east. So if we're talking about Boroondara, Stonington, yeah, there's always gonna be a mix of people, right? Like some people like the modern, some people like the architectural aspects of a heritage home. Probably more so than the rarity of them. You know what I mean? I don't even think that would play into their minds. It's just like, if I'm buying in Hawthorn, I'd really love a terrace. You know what I mean? Like I think that's just the visual that people want to have, and same as Richmond. You know what I mean? Like you look at Richmond, you've got Swan Street and Bridge Road, all those roads that interconnect there and sort of connect those two roads. The in between of that and the streets running off it, they're all tiny little terrace homes. Like you're talking 6 meters wide.
Yep.
Like they're small, and they've got that little sort of front entryway and veranda. Mm-hmm. That's just the picture that people want. So they're not thinking of and they possibly grew up there. You know what I mean? Like if they grew up around there, that's just the thing that is in their mind that they want, and they're okay with that style of living. Versus I think if people grew up a little bit further out and they're newer builds, like pretty much from Mulgrave out or like Rowville out, these homes are going to be like 90s built. There's not really going to be too many that are older than that.
Yeah.
And anyone that grew up there is probably more accustomed to like modern stuff, right? Because they didn't have that ornate type of dwelling like to live in. Some people might appreciate it, but there'll be a lot of people, if they're moving to the city or closer to town, they'll want that modern aspect.
I think well, actually, now you're mentioning that, I think that is just an emotional driver that brings people in. And I think like emotion is probably the key word, because even when you said like picture, I think when I see some of these facade types that they're like picture perfect, they're really pretty facade types. And I mean, what was interesting to me is that how many first home buyers want to get into them. Like I thought it would be a lot more of like maybe the downsizers or the family home buyers trying to get into that period home.
They're usually avoiding it. They're usually the ones that flick to modern.
The
downsizers go, I've had all of that. I've dealt with this Edwardian for the last 25, 30 years. Mm-hmm. I don't want that shit anymore. I just give me the $3 million apartment.
Yeah. Literally Lux Apartments. Yeah. That's where they transition to. That's I was speaking to a buyer not too long ago that's leaving a double-story terrace in Albert Park, going for the 3 to 4 mil single level apartment.
You can see why they work. You know what I mean? And you can see, I think some of the stats that we have just around Toorak, for instance, where there were big blocks. You're talking like 1,500, half an acre lot sizes. Big estate homes back in the 1950s. They didn't see the value. Yes, some of these homes would have been very expensive, but a developer comes in, looks at it, knocks it down, and then builds an apartment block. Yeah. That's just what has happened through there, and there's not many left, like of the real traditional heritage type homes, even through Toorak, right? Like there are a ton of modern builds.
Becoming rarer and rarer.
Yeah.
Which really characterize the neighborhood. So, and well, on that, so what we'll do is we're going to break down some sort of the pros and cons of period homes, then we'll go same thing for the contemporary builds and talk about them sort of on a very high level. But from the heritage perspective, I think like what makes period homes so desirable? And I think that, well, for me personally, when I look at them, especially when even look at like European architecture or something like that, for example, I think it's artwork. Like, and I think that we really, really lost that when it was just like, hey, we need to hit some building targets. Like, let's sort of print and repeat. And it's, it's the rise of the fabricated homes and everything else. And I mean, we need that cost cutting, it's affordability, like that's but it definitely wasn't the case. Like early 1900s, you look at some of the Queen Anne architecture, the Federation style homes, even, you know, just the single fronted terraces, like a lot of them have got more ornate features like the fireplaces,
Yeah,
the higher
fretwork.
ceilings, the fretwork.
Lays like the LED light,
Yeah.
you know, all of that kind of stuff. Like, who's going to sit there these days and spend hours creating like a colorful, you know, mural on a window?
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't exist.
And because of that, it's a lost art. And because it's a lost art, then it's also like the rarity and scarcity factor. So I think honestly, and that's why I think a lot of first home buyers go to it, is that they can see the appeal from it. But also like some of the things, like in a lot of ways, and we'll definitely touch on this when we get into the contemporary, and in a lot of ways, period homes have just got worse floor plans. But some of the design features that were more common then is higher ceilings. Like you'll see 3.5 meter
much
ceilings,
higher ceilings.
in a lot of them. And like the bedrooms will quite often get like a 4x3 as opposed to like a 3x3.
Yeah.
They didn't have robes, but they at least the rooms were bigger in their entirety. And yeah, I mean, like some of the marble fireplaces and things that you see, like
That's like, I look at fireplaces or chimneys as probably the amount of wealth that someone had back in the day.
They had at the
Like if
time,
you go through the Gascoigne, and I know we're going to touch on some of the estates, but Gascoigne is a really well-known estate in Melbourne East, and you walk through there and you can point the homes where the rich people lived back in the day. There's a couple that have like over 10 chimneys, you know, like 10 fireplaces, because to run those fireplaces and to have a home that big back then, that would have been showing like considerable wealth.
yeah.
So yeah, it's all of those fireplaces, those types of features, the internal, you know, gutter cornices, and you know all the intricacies of that, like detailed roofs. You know, you've got
Even
all
like
the
picture on the
paneling,
roofs. Like
the picture of the roofs,
Yeah.
picture rails as well.
Yep.
Like, you know, a lot of people just see, they don't even know what a picture rail is. They just see this like strip or strapping across a room. Some of them might be in a different color, but yeah, they're picture rails so that people could hang artwork and they're not having to, you know, break through into the plaster. They probably couldn't either, because a lot of it was, well, not, there would have been brick ones as well, but it would have been just quite fibrous and you wouldn't have been able to put anything into the wall. A lot of horsehair plaster and things like that. But yeah, just those features that would have taken more time have been lost. Like as we grow into this modern age and simplicity and, you know, minimalist, they don't have any of those features. So yeah, it is lost. It's a shame. Like we're not building any more of them, and it's why they're protected as well.
And then there's even just like the amount of builders that do Federation renovation repairs or things like that. It seems like there's very, very few.
Yeah, there's a couple, like I've seen one get built in Melbourne East, which was full knockdown rebuild, but they put the facade back up. Like they recreated a facade. They actually did a good job.
Okay.
You see some of those recreates and they're horrible.
Yeah, shocking.
But this one was actually quite good. It was a weatherboard, so not as hard to replicate. But yeah, there are a few builders out there that will do this like reproduction type work. But yeah, it is hard. Like to get, if you wanted to keep the horsehair plaster in your house, because it's got like a unique finish, good luck trying to find a plasterer that can do that.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that goes into the scarcity factor as well. It's not just scarcity in terms of how many homes are actually left. It's who's actually qualified to do the work. And I mean, I'm a bit of an old head when I watch some of those restoration shows. And one of the restoration shows I remember watching, they had to literally get some people out of retirement in order to replicate some of the finishes and on like the roof, the patchwork, and all different sorts of things.
Does
like,
not surprise me.
It's like a trade that's literally disappeared, which is so sad.
Yeah,
But
tuck pointing is probably a more
bricks,
common one. Yeah, like the bricks.
I love the look of it as well.
Yeah, like that's probably something that's, I would say like there's a lot of brickies that might have wanted to specialize in something. Like it wasn't as big as what it is now, I reckon. Maybe 10 years ago, there would have been a few people that did it, but now it seems like there's quite a few companies that do it. And essentially it's the mortar that gets filled in and they color code it to the brick.
Yep.
And then they'll come and essentially like draw a white line on that mortar line to like really define the brick.
Yeah,
it looks
yeah.
gorgeous.
It
Like
looks
you've got a
amazing.
dark brick and then you've got this white, like stark, join or line throughout the bricks. It can
Looks ultra clean.
yeah. It looks really cool.
I went through one not too long ago in Middle Park that was just gorgeously. It was brand new, like tuck pointing that they just done. It just makes the whole home pop.
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
pop. Yeah. So it's those types of things, right? So, as they do get renovated, and the requirement of a specific trade, it's supply and demand. So someone will see the opportunity and go, you know what, I'm going to get into horsehair plastering.
Yeah.
And there probably is someone out there that does it. Yeah.
So, I mean, look, these things have got pros and cons, but one of the things that I really appreciate from the scarcity factor of it is that there really just is not that many homes that are out there. And we're not building new homes that are getting heritage listed because of their architecture.
Yeah.
Like I think of it with all the periods. You've got like the Federation, the Queen Anne, like they usually go through like royalties and Tudors and stuff.
Yeah.
You're not getting any Queen Elizabeth II builds happening in Melbourne at the moment.
Yeah.
Like it's just not the case. But even if you look at like period estates, which I think we can run through, there's not that many period estates in Melbourne that are proper full heritage overlay areas. Like we've got Grace Park in Hawthorn, which is one of the more prominent ones. The Gascoyne in Malvern East. Got the Riversdale precinct, the Tara estate in Camberwell, around where Broadway is, and then Riversdale in Hawthorn as well. Like some of the big ones that sort of come to mind.
Yeah.
Where they're full heritage areas.
Yeah. And Summerhill heritage?
Summerhill is heritage as well.
Yeah.
There's not many though. Like when you think about it, and they're not huge. Like, you've got a couple
about
hundred homes across them.
When we're looking through the numbers, is circa 135,000 homes in Stonington and Boroondara, and there's about 20,000 that have heritage protection on them.
Yeah.
So it's less than 20%. So it's around it's close to 15% of total dwellings in the whole of those two LGAs that are protected by heritage, and that number's
Dropping, I'd say.
yeah, it's like,
Well, as
if
you
it's
build more
protected,
apartments.
yeah, correct. So
Yeah.
the percentage is dropping, correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, it is a little bit sad because no one's going to go and build an Art Deco apartment building.
Yeah. Well, financially, it just wouldn't make sense from a feasibility perspective.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
build way fewer in the block,
Yeah.
and you probably wouldn't be selling them for as much as what you could have if you had have just built high density.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then on the negative side of period homes, and there is a few negatives. And as an example, especially if you've got a heritage overlay on them and you need to replace things like for like with the period features, they can be super expensive.
Depends on how hardcore that is. I know we've looked
true,
at one where it's carried on into the internals.
Yep.
Because it was known for a certain, aesthetic internally. So if that happens, so if you've got external and internal, bloody nightmare.
It really does depend as well on what sort of period style it was and how common it was. And as an example, we had a property that was under contract. It was on Queen Road, so it was in the Melbourne postcode. And this was a Gothic revival property, and it was one of the only Gothic revival mansions that was built at the time in the 1880s or whatever it was. It was a beautiful property, but it was like 3.6 meter ceilings inside, had like a park tree ballroom. Like it was just absolutely gorgeous. Though the problem is that it had some substantial roof leaks, and building and pest inspector gets in the roof void and essentially said that, look, you can actually see the outside from in the roof void, and it had clearly been leaking for so long, and we knew now that they knew about it and were just avoiding it. And it's like, well, why were they avoiding it? It's because the specific tiles that were used were these Italian tiles, and in the only way that you could replace them, and like they're not made in Australia, so you literally had to ship out tiles from Italy, from this like country town in Italy, to bring them all in, and you need to have someone that's qualified to use these particular tiles on this roof. And because it's going to be such an enormous job, you need to do scaffolding around the entire mansion. Because it was on a busy road, you'd have to close the road down. And they got quotes for the roof replacement at 350 to 400,000.
Yeah, right.
And so they're just not doing it. But that means that it's like slowly deteriorating over time, which is just devastating because it's the most gorgeous building. Like it was a beautiful, beautiful mansion that had been converted into 4 apartments. It was incredible. So, and it's such a shame that is happening, and like you can't really find a cheaper alternative. I don't know what they're going to do because you need to replace it like for like.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maintenance and renovation costs can definitely be a problem when it comes to heritage protected properties. Next one I would say is that there is just some fairly obvious negatives with floor plans. I think it was just the era of how people lived back then, right? Like it was the kitchens were usually tucked away. You typically won't find built-in robes in a lot of these properties.
Yeah, kitchens weren't a thing. So kitchens were meant to be just this, area in the house where you prepared food. It wasn't like the heart of the home, which it is now. So you will find it just sort of like jammed in like a U shape. Maybe it's got an external window, but it's kind of behind another door. People didn't want to see it back then.
You also, I think one of the things that I've noticed a lot about many of these period homes is they didn't necessarily have like the double glazing that we do now. And from an insulation and like a heating cooling efficiency perspective, the windows were just way smaller. Like they were like 1 meter as opposed to being like across like half of the room when you're in bedrooms and things like that. So the natural light is just way worse in many of the homes. But I mean, that's just sort of the trade-off that you get for the artwork and the period finishes.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have had the capabilities back then, you know what I mean?
For sure,
like they just wouldn't have thought of connecting panes of glass. So that's why they are those, sort of smaller windows and more of them.
Even just the insulation.
And they're thin. They're paper thin. Like you don't even want to breathe on some of them. You know what I mean? Like you're just going to crack them.
Yeah.
And they are quite often broken. Like a lot of the ones that you'll go through.
Or painted over and you just can't even open or close them.
They suck. They're double hung ones.
So often.
Yeah.
But then, mate, going into the modern side of things, right? Then because that's what we're building in today's day and age. I mean, you're building it at the moment, like you're going down that route. And I can see why so many people are drawn to the modern builds. I think that a lot of people, funnily enough, have question marks over some modern builds because they don't know about quality. But when you're in the inner east and like typically with a fairly decent budget, like a lot of the properties here are typically built very, very well. We're going through an insane home later today, for an example. And with these properties, like they've clearly got some major pros. So like, what do you think are some of the top reasons of the modern properties work for so many people in today's day and age?
Yeah, I think for the modern family, it does work. As you were saying before, the floor plans of an older home don't necessarily work all the best. So if you are building, like if someone's doing a pure knockdown rebuild, they can build it specific to their needs. So it might have a master bedroom downstairs. They might have all the kids upstairs. Might have a big playroom as well, or breakout room for kids. Space for a pool, because again, some of these larger estate homes, depending on how they're positioned on the block, they might not have enough room at the back for a pool. Like people have to jam them into the side. Just depending on like if they were going to do a renovation. So if you're weighing up the two, so putting the big box on the back versus a knockdown rebuild. So I think it's that floor plan. It's just the clean aesthetics as well. Like if people are more of a minimalist, like my partner, I've tried to convince her 1 billion times to let's get like an Edwardian and do the box on the back, or even just purchase one that's done. Can't get her across the line. She doesn't get the front of it. Like she just doesn't like the front of it, and then the connection of the two. So you've got all these cornices, and then you go into square set. You know what I mean? Like how does that work? So that sort of it's too much of a contrast between the two of them. So I do find the people that are wanting that more minimalist, clean look, it's almost like hotel vibes, will obviously lean on that fresh build. But I think it's the flexibility of choosing what you want. It is new, so it might have builder's warranty, even though there's a lot of shonky builders out there and whatnot. So do your DD on if you're buying something that's built. So flexibility on what you want, the cleanness of having something new and modern, and probably, if you are building a single dwelling or you're buying a single dwelling property on a 650 square meter block, so it's just, one property there, it's going to be big. You know what I mean? Like it's probably going to be 50, 60 squares. Yeah. Double story as well. So it's not just a period home that might have a single story to the front of it, and then it goes into a double at the back. The whole house will be double story. Which again gives you more space to do on the block, right? Like
the yard.
You got more flexibility. Like the house that we're building is about, I think it's over 50 squares. We've got a pool. We've got like extra room in the backyard as well, and we've got an 11-meter driveway. So the house is like quite set back, but we've still got a ton of room because the house is double story from the front door.
And you think of the home that was on it before knocking it down, and
Yeah.
like how they used the space. It's like,
Oh yeah, and
not
it was
as
on
well.
like a weird angle as well. Like
Yeah, sometimes they build literally rectangle on a square block. Like,
Yeah,
what
I
are
don't
you,
know.
What are you doing?
I think it was to do with the sun. Like
Yeah.
it must have had to do with the sun, like the way that the sun went across the block. Should really look into that, ask an architect. But yeah, we weren't taking anything away from the suburb by knocking down our 1950s, orange brick home. Didn't even have the slightest bit of Art Deco feature on it. So yeah, we're hopefully improving the suburb aesthetic.
I think so.
But I think that's just what it boils down to. It's really subjective as to like I've been through a lot of homes. I love modern and I love the architectural aspects of heritage builds as well. So
Well, I think it's like, particularly in Australia, Melbourne, Sydney, where we've really come into like the McMansion style of living, and it's so common to just absolutely like have these enormous homes now. Yeah, it's like
basements. We're not doing a basement, but there are some homes around here that are like 60 squares plus with a basement.
Yeah,
and it'll be 4 people in the house. So yeah, how much room do you need? And it's just well, what about this? What if I have friends stay over? So you might have a couple of friends stay over every couple of months, but you've got this bedroom that's dedicated.
you've got the
to
east wing. That's that's it.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, like from the floor plan perspective, you've got built-in robes, walk-in robes quite often in the master, en suites, typically way larger glass windows,
more
and
bathrooms.
walls, more bathrooms.
Yeah,
You've usually got
for
the
sure.
powder room
Yep.
downstairs as like a designated thing. In today's day and age, you're most likely going to have like a downstairs master, potentially an upstairs master as well, depending on the home and the size. The butler's pantry, I think, is just like such a convenient and well used and utilized space in the home, like typically like a front living and then like the back living as well. So you've just got so many pros and benefits to the home, and then you compare them to the older floor plans, even of the mega homes, and they had like an office and then a study and then like a ballroom, and then the dining was in a separate room to the kitchen.
Yeah.
And like it just, the flow of it was incredible and grand, just nowhere near as practical in how we live in today's day and age. So I think that like the utilization of the space and the utilization of the block is probably the biggest differences for what you see in today's day and age.
Yeah, for sure. It's 100% the case with these, even back to probably the late 90s, early 2000s, where a lot of the big homes, like there was people were still building like 40 square, probably 35 to 45 square would have been bigger homes back then, like double stories and whatnot. And you'd have these 2 front living rooms. And it's like, what do we need those for? Like, and they'll be quite big too. So there'll be like a pool table room. And then there'll be the Christmas tree room. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty much what it is. And then you'll have the family and whatnot at the back of it. But yeah, we have certainly not so much change. Well, certainly from the period homes, like changed the way that we live, where they've got all of these smaller rooms, but like sort of scattered through the house. Like you'll go through some of the bigger double story period homes and you get lost. It's just like, what room am I in? You know what I mean? It's just like, I've been through, there's one in Camberwell that I think you went through. And then I went through a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't even know where I am, because it's just like all these pokey little rooms. And I think it was maybe 7 or 8 million that they want for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's struggling on the market because people would go into there and go, well, like, I don't know how to use this space. You know what I mean? Like there's so many rooms.
And the thing is with those as well, like that was, like, it was an incredible piece of architecture. It was, I think it was 4 meter ceilings downstairs and upstairs. It was enormous.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they're all double brick. So even if it didn't have internal heritage restrictions, like you need to get engineering and everything. Even if you just wanted to open a wall and like make one space larger, like get rid of the wall in between the dining and the kitchen, so it turns into a bit more of an open plan.
Yeah,
it's like that's not a simple process. That's not a weekend job. That's like architects and engineers and everything come through, and then you have to fix the flooring. Like it's like a huge job to just do something which could be as simple as that. With some of the other homes. So yeah, certainly pros and cons to it all. But I mean, I'm interested to hear. It'd be everyone that's watching and listening along. Maybe we'll do a poll on Instagram as well. I'm curious to know what people would actually rather to live in. Would you
What's
prefer to
preference?
be in the period home? Would you prefer to be in a contemporary?
Yeah, it's a good question.
See what's out there. Well, thanks for tuning in to How's the Market. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love it if you could leave us a quick review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps more people to find the show. If you are looking for help purchasing your next property or getting access to more off-market opportunities, head over to www.tommy.com.au and submit your brief, and we'll reach out if we're able to help you. Until next week, we'll catch you guys then. See you.
See ya.